Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hamer. This is where we go beyond the headlines and get into how great leaders, operators, and innovators in retail really think. From building teams, scaling businesses, to loyalty and data. Every week I talk to the people building and running and reinventing retail. Unpacking what's working, what's changing, and what's next. If you care about the detail of retail, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast. My guest today turned down a university place at 17 to sell furniture on eBay from his mate's garden in Wiltshire. No investors, no business degree, no safety net. A decade later, that decision has become Furniturebox, a 25 million online retailer with 80 staff, a state-of-the-art warehouse next to the M4, and a customer base that stretches from the UK all the way to the United States. His Trustpilot score is 4.9 from nearly 10,000 reviews. He's on the Forbes European 30 under 30, and he's done all of that without spending a single pound of outside investment. Dan Beckles, welcome to Retail is Detail.
Thank you very much, Shelby. Yeah, what an introduction. Thank you.
That's a pleasure. By all accounts, well deserved. No, you started a furniture business in 17, selling things on eBay, and 10 years later, you're doing 25 million in sales. And how does that journey go? How does that happen without any outside investment?
That's a good question. So when we first started out, my co-founder Monty and I were best friends throughout school. He'd been selling lots of things on eBay, anything from mini motors through to pest control, all throughout school. And with the money that he'd generated from that business, decided to buy the first container of furniture. So it was all self-invested from that point. We quite literally had to sell pretty much all of the furniture before we could then buy more right at the start. So completely bootstrapped the business. And we managed to use marketplaces in the early days, such as eBay, Amazon, Wayfair and Tesco, as real vehicles to grow our business, because with those channels, they were established. We didn't need to put lots of money into marketing and advertising, and we could be very competitive in the online space there. So it was definitely a slow burn, which was hugely kickstarted when COVID hit as well.
And that relationship with marketplaces is really interesting. So you still sell those marketplaces today, but then those marketplaces, as have you evolved as a direct-to-consumer business, must become increasingly like competition. So how does that dynamic work nowadays, and how do you keep it working from both sides of the equation?
Yeah, so more broadly as a business, relationships are really important to us. And it's exactly the same for marketplaces. We wouldn't be where we are today without their support, and we still work with a lot of them now. So I'm in a slightly different way to the way that we worked originally. But what marketplaces will always be for us is a great way to grow and expand our customer reach. So our website is our biggest channel now in the UK, but in the US, we don't have a Furniturebox website. We sell via Wayfair, Amazon and Walmart. And so they've enabled us to actually reach a different market there. So that relationship piece is really important for us. We still want to be involved in marketplaces. Ultimately, the way we sit as a business is it's a great way to push our brand out. We never just want to have our own website. We want people to be able to shop on their favorite platform and still find our product. So yeah, we've got fantastic relationships across the board with many of them who we've worked with for the full 10 years as well.
Very cool. And going back to the beginning, so you had a confirmed place to study economics at Loughborough, and Monty ran and said, let's give furniture a year. What made you say yes? And was there ever a moment when you almost thought about why, should I go back to Loughborough, and if the place is still open?
Yeah, to be honest, on the university piece, I was just going because I was told that I should go. I was always very interested in business, just didn't quite know where to start. And I was going to Loughborough because I love my sport. So I said, right, I'll go and study economics, which is kind of related to business. And I'll play a lot of sport while I do it. Monty and I have been best friends throughout school. We played in teams together, lots and lots of different sports teams. And I'd seen him developing his business on eBay over the years and was very interested in that. So I think when the opportunity came about and he said, look, you just take a year out. If it doesn't go well, go to uni, have a good time there. For me, it was a no-brainer because it was a win-win. It was something that I really wanted to do with one of my best friends. And so it was almost the opportunity of a lifetime, and being able to do that with someone that you really trust and you think you go far with.
Yeah, and co-founder relationships absolutely huge. Biggest reason for business breakup is the failure of that relationship. So you've known each other since year 7, co-founded a business together at 17, and you're still going strong a decade later. What's the operational model that you guys have together that keeps it working? And have you ever come close to falling out?
In terms of, I'll start with the operational model. In terms of the operational model, we were very used to doing everything. So for the first 3.5 years, it was just us. So we were the customer service team, the buying team. We unloaded the containers, we developed the website, everything. And as the business has grown, slowly we've relinquished some control in those areas, but we still do get involved in lots. So Monty oversees a lot of the US business and Wayfair more broadly, whereas I'm now responsible for the brand website side. And then we obviously split senior management amongst us, but we still do quite a lot similar, but split and spread across the board. In terms of being close to falling out, not really, which is strange. We definitely have the odd disagreement, but I think it's healthy. And we've got enough respect for each other that if there's a disagreement, there's a reason why that disagreement's happening. And actually, usually there's a good outcome with both ideas for the business. So I guess for staff, sometimes if we have these disagreements, they're probably sitting back thinking it's mum and dad having a bit of an argument, but it's always very productive, and we managed to keep things going very well between us still.
Oh, that's great. And you mentioned doing everything end to end in the business, just the two of you, first 3 years, customer calls, picking, packing orders, which you've previously said is pivotal. Like, what did doing all of the jobs teach you that a dashboard or management report doesn't?
Everything about our business. It taught us the importance of customer service. It taught us the importance of great quality product, because if there were issues with the product, that came back to us. It took up our time. And so we very, very quickly improved our packaging, made sure suppliers at source were conforming with our quality standards. And so I think that whole piece across the board taught us how important every aspect of buying and selling was. And I think without that experience, we wouldn't have the great base of a team that we have at the moment, who also carry those values through. We've had our Trustpilot 4.9 out of 5 for 7 years, and that's purely been based on just treating customers in the right way, because we understand and we appreciate that furniture is a very considered purchase. It's a very hard and emotional purchase, and if something goes wrong, that can happen. But it's how you resolve that that's really key. And yeah, we learned that from a very, very young age, with some interesting experiences along the way that if we had the chance again, you'd probably try and avoid.
Yeah. Is there a specific story you tell your customer service team to say, that's a level of Furniturebox customer service?
Oh, that's a very good question. I mean, we on multiple occasions have hand delivered items to customers. So whether that's myself or Monty chucking it in the back of our car, turning up at a customer's house because something's arrived damaged and they've got a dinner party the next day, sort of going that extra mile. I think it really depends, because every customer is unique to us and their problems are unique. So it really depends how we can help them. It could even be something as simple as, and we've had quite a few of these instances, ending up being on a call with a customer for 45 minutes where actually the issues, not just with the furniture, they've got a lot going on in their life, and trying to sort of understand and appreciate that with the customer is really important. So the best way you can help, and trying to relieve a bit of pressure and stress in their life is really important. So I could probably pick out a lot of single instances, but I think it's very dependent on those individual customers and their needs that we find.
Yeah. And this business has been through a lot of different stages, the eBay days, early warehouse, pandemic, US launch. What's been the thread that connects it all? What values have you taken Furniturebox that are non-negotiable through all of that?
I think one of the big ones is just the care for everyone within the company, but also everyone outside of the company. We're not just here to make money. It's here to actually care about people and do things in the right way. So it's something that's been very important to us across the board. And I'd like to think we've acted with full integrity, both within the company and outside of the company. And I think when you bring people in that hold those same values, it makes it so much easier to grow as a company, because everyone's on board and everyone wants to succeed and wants the company to succeed. So I think that's a massive one, and also just treating people in the way that you'd like to be treated yourself. Um, I couldn't think of anything worse than a customer having a terrible experience with anyone in our team where they've been treated with a lack of respect, because ultimately that's not how we operate.
Nice. And you mentioned Monty had sold a variety of things on eBay before. Why furniture? And do you think that Furniturebox could have got as big if it were another category?
Yeah, it's a good question. So why furniture? It was a bit of an opportunity that we saw. Back in 2015, furniture was big, bulky, and the barriers to entry were much larger. Um, Anyone and everyone could buy in phone cases, small value items. It was quite low risk, but a container of furniture, number one, is risky because things can get damaged a lot easier. Number two, it costs a lot of money. So at that point in 2015, we saw a bit of a gap on marketplaces where there weren't a huge amount of people doing it. And so we sensed a bit of an opportunity there. Started with dining tables and chairs, and then since then built things out.
Yeah. And still majority of your business today in dining tables and chairs, right? That's been a constant.
It's ever evolving. We've got a much deeper range now, and in particular, our garden ranges are pretty expansive at the moment. But dining's a key category for us. But across the board, we're also building lots of products. We're bringing on in excess of 500 new products this year. So a real drive to make sure that we've got the same breadth of product in other categories that we do in dining too.
And then you and Monty making the European 30 under 30, alongside a bunch of VC-backed founders who'd taken quite a lot of external investment. Like, what did bootstrapping mean to you? And is that still a source of pride today?
Huge source of pride today. I think so many businesses and business owners I meet talk about the VC backing and all of this investment, and it would have been great in a sense because it might have expedited things. But I think actually growing organically in the way we have has taught us a huge amount. And we treat the business as if it is our own business and we can make our own decisions. And that's been incredibly important because we don't have investors breathing down our neck saying we have to do certain things in a certain way. We have to employ certain people. We can sort of forge our own destiny. And that's been really nice in a sense because it's just meant that we can grow the business in the way that we wanted to and run it in the way that we want to.
And is that still a non-negotiable? You won't take external investment, or are there scenarios where you'd consider it to expand?
Yeah, I mean, when we moved into our brand new state of the art facility, we took on finance agreements, but not so much investment in that sense. And as we are scaling sort of past the 30, 40 million point, I'd be naive to think that we won't need some sort of finance support because, to grow to that scale, investment is needed. But certainly from an ownership of the business point, that won't change. That's something that we're absolutely set on. And I think a lot of people within our business would be pretty upset if that ever changed. So.
That's great. You talked about Nick Jenkins, the founder of Moonpig, as a mentor figure in your early days. What was the single most useful thing he told you, and how did you take that?
I think the single most useful thing he talked about and talked to us about was relating to the lifetime value of a customer. So when we first started, we were very much just based on paid media. We had listings on eBay, Amazon. We were using ads to get the sales. We didn't really understand that repeat purchase behavior and how important that is. A company like Moonpig, that is what their business is built on. And I think it really opened our eyes to thinking more about product. So how can we get people back in? And actually the long-term value of our company isn't just selling one item to one customer. It's about being able to retain that customer for years and years, make sure that we're serving them the products that they want and making sure that we can be their destination. So I think that really changed our perspective because when he said that, we definitely weren't thinking about repeat purchase and the importance of that.
Yeah. And what are some things the Furniturebox does nowadays which ensures that repeat purchase better than anyone else?
So we very much at the moment are looking at range expansions. So if we use garden, new garden teas as an example, we've got parasols that customers can add in, accessories such as cushions. With some of our best-selling lines, we've got like coffee tables, side tables that have come in. So it's trying to complement what customers have already bought with similar style items that they might have in their home. Whereas previously, when we used to do the buying, myself and Monty, we'd fly out to shows, go and point at something, say, "Oh, that looks nice. Let's buy that. Let's buy that." And we didn't necessarily think about tying in rooms in a customer's home to the same style.
Okay, makes sense. So giving them the other options so they can buy everything from Furniturebox if they want to.
Exactly. And yeah, the feedback we used to get was customers being disappointed that they couldn't buy more from us. Where we were very strong in dining, you might only buy a dining set every 5-10 years. And if you really had a great experience with a company, you'd go back there to look. But if you haven't got the options to buy your sofa or your, I don't know, your garden dining set or your rug from a company, it'd be quite a disappointing experience. So that's really driven us to get a lot of new product on.
And what does a really good experience buying furniture look like if it's online? Like, is that at the point of delivery or the point of warranty claim? Like, what are those key touch points you're focused on?
So for us, the key touch points start on the website. So going onto the website, it's easy to navigate. It's got every bit of information you need to make a purchase. So it's explained what the materials are, what are the benefits of those materials. The pictures are good and accurate. So videos as well where applicable, explaining the product. So that's sort of first phase. Then going through to the checkout. The checkout's simple, it's easy. You've got recognizable brands in there that you can pay with if you want to, whether that's Apple Pay, whether that's with Klarna, ClearPay. And at that point, it's then offering customer a delivery day that suits them. So our core USP is next day delivery up to 8 p.m. in the evening. That's the latest cutoff with any large parcel furniture company in the UK. And that's free. But also we offer at checkout a calendar. So if you're moving into a new property in 3 or 4 weeks, you can also select the date in 3 or 4 weeks. So it's that convenience piece. It's free and then return to free. So I think with online, it's really key that actually it is a risky purchase. If you haven't seen the product in person, you need that reassurance that if something isn't right, if you just change your mind, it's not going to cost you. And so free returns is also really important for us. And then if there is an issue or if you've got any questions, having a team that are UK based 7 days a week that you can ask, call up or email, and they get back to you with an SLA of 2 hours, I think is really, really key. So it's that full experience where you feel you've been looked after and it was easy for you.
And when you did next day free delivery on furniture in 2015, that was generally radical, right? People were used to waiting weeks. That's how furniture works. So what did people say when you instigated that? And how did you solve that operationally?
Yeah, so I think people still now are pretty surprised because furniture being big and bulky, you just assume it's going to take weeks to come. And I think the norm in the market up until recently was that you will be waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a sofa at least. Is what it is. That's the market. But actually, we aren't here to just conform to the norm. We do want to be mold breakers in that space and ask the questions, why not? In a world where people are becoming more demanding, customers want instant gratification of products that they buy online. Why can't we deliver quicker? We're even looking at whether we now could deliver on a Sunday or Monday if you order on a Saturday. So it's always trying to push that. And then solving that operationally is a little bit more difficult when we're in Mere in southern Wiltshire, which is it's not the best connected. Now it's much, much easier. So we're just based off the M4. We get a trailer that stays in throughout the whole day. We fill that in, it gets collected just after 8 o'clock and goes to the main hub. So operationally, we've managed to do it fairly easily. We've got 2 split teams on shifts, and there's also a lot of hidden benefits in the fact that you can solve issues quicker. So if you were missing a screw or if there was a problem, we can still replace it up until 8 p.m. in the evening. So it just means that from that service level, our service has got even better.
Let's talk channels. So you've got 10 channels simultaneously. Your own site, Amazon US, Wayfair, B&Q, The Range, eBay, and others. Most retailers kind of treat marketplaces as a necessary evil, but you've really embraced it and grown your entire model around it. So what are most e-commerce founders getting wrong about marketplaces?
I think a lot of e-commerce founders think that marketplaces will steal a lot of their market share and it take away from sales on things like their own website. But actually, we haven't found that to be the case. If anything, it endorses that. And naturally, you will get customers that prefer to shop somewhere else. And so you're increasing your visibility across the board. And that's the way that we see it. So With Garden, we sell with B&Q, The Range, a lot of big retailers in the UK who are very big on Garden. It doesn't mean that we don't get sales on our own website, but it means that actually a customer who might have a loyalty card with one of those, or likes purchasing from B&Q, or wants to go into store and speak to someone about that at B&Q or The Range, can do that. And so I think it's a great way to supplement your model. And I think a lot of marketplaces get quite a bad name for themselves because people think that actually they just cut into your margin and they don't offer you any benefit. I think the big thing for us as well is the ability to scale into other regions as an MVP approach, particularly with the likes of an Amazon and Wayfair, where you can work really closely with them and cut out that operational risk of having to set something up yourself.
Yeah, and they've certainly done a pretty good job with the operating side of the business. And your US turnover, conversely, you've tripled to 6 million last year, and that's purely through marketplaces, Wayfair, Amazon primarily. At what point do you get big enough in the US that you'll need your own brand presence?
So it's on the roadmap over the next 2 or 3 years. The problem is the US is much, much bigger than the UK. So our next day delivery promise, unfortunately, wouldn't be there. And operationally, it's a very different model. So at the moment, we're sort of gathering a lot of information around what styles are popular in the US. But then our plan in the next 2 or 3 years is to scope out actually opening Furniturebox as a website in the US to allow customers to also purchase direct, which would be incredibly exciting, but operationally pretty complex in the US. But we're confident we can do it.
Okay. So you've got the logistics aspect, the tax aspect for the US is quite challenging, legal aspect potentially. What is top of mind when you're deciding when you do that, now or later?
It's probably the level of investment and time that would have to go into that project. Our core focus at the moment is around expanding our brand presence in the UK. We're building a new website at the moment. We've got a lot of projects on, and expanding in the US would be a significant undertaking, and we just don't feel it's quite the right time at the moment. We feel we've got a lot more to do in the UK that we'd like to do in the UK before then doing that step. So I think 2 or 3 years, it'd be a different story.
Awesome. Well, we've talked a lot about platforms on this podcast, and it seems to be a moving feast. I mean, you've switched previously from Magento to BigCommerce. You won BigCommerce Shopper Experience Award last year. How are you thinking about platforms at the moment?
I think for us, we're at a critical point as a business where our brand and our website's growing quite significantly, and we're looking at that next sort of 2 to 5 years because we don't want to keep moving around. It's something that we've been there, done that. As you said, we went from Magento 1 to Magento 2 to BigCommerce, and now was the right time for us to say, okay, we need something that can scale us up to a business past 100 million. So when we've been looking at this from a new website point, we've done that with that ambition in mind, so we can really build something now that we're not going to have to change in 2 or 3 years. So it's tricky because platforms develop new features and evolve very quickly, but we're confident with the new site it will deliver on that for us.
All right, looking forward to seeing that soon. And what are the key features you're looking for in a website or a platform that will allow you to scale to 100 million? What are the key considerations there?
So key considerations for us is that customer experience piece. So simplicity in terms of we don't want complex builds. We haven't got a team of developers, so things need to be easy for us to manage ourselves. The checkout is incredibly important. So having a quick, easy checkout for customers, things like Apple Pay, Express Checkout with PayPal, ShopPay, all of these things are really important going forward, especially with agentic AI coming in, and potentially in the future, customers be able to check out through AI chatbots. The ability to configure that and have that set up is going to be really important. So when we've been looking at this, it's all around trying to improve that customer experience, remove obstacles and barriers that we currently have, and also modernize the look and feel of our site too. So it could be more trustworthy, I think, for customers.
Interesting. So I went to a MasterCard event a couple of months ago now where they said 30% of transactions in the US will be through agentic commerce next year. Have you heard similar predictions, or is that something you're factoring into your decision-making moving forward?
I haven't quite heard predictions as large as that. That's incredible. Yeah.
Given they're looking to be the infrastructure.
I think it makes sense in a way. I think with our industry, it will be slower. I think it will always be a considered purchase for furniture. But it makes sense if you're buying something like clothing and you know your exact measurements and at your fingertips, the research can be done and you can pay for it there and then. It makes complete sense, but it is something we're definitely looking into and optimizing for. Because even that discovery piece, even if someone doesn't purchase through AI, the discovery piece is really key going forward that we see with the sort of fall off in Google search and AI engines taking more and more of that bandwidth.
Totally. And yeah, that feeds in. So it's always going to be a considered purchase. You asking people to spend £800 on a dining set they've never touched, sitting at their laptop at 10 p.m. What is the single biggest thing that stops them from clicking buy? And what have you found fixes it?
For us, it's not knowing us. So this is why our big focus is on the brand piece. We receive a lot of feedback around customers being delighted they found us, but almost feeling like we're a bit of a hidden gem. And that's one of the downsides of building your business on marketplaces initially. The brand was a bit of an afterthought, but it's why we did a rebrand last year, and we're pushing really hard on our brand marketing. We've actually got a pop-up in Birmingham next weekend, which will be our first physical retail show that we've done, which is really exciting. But it's really that brand piece and not trusting us. That seems to be the single biggest thing that almost put customers off, or does put customers off. Because when you're spending a lot of money, you like to know where that money's going. You like to sort of recognize that company, I think. And unfortunately for us, we're a little bit behind on the brand piece, but I'm confident we're going to catch up.
Okay. So pop-ups, brand marketing. What are the big bets you're placing in terms of how you get the Furniturebox out there, Furniturebox brand out there?
Yes, a lot of different avenues. So physical retail trials, something that we're doing at the moment. Sort of out of home materials as well. So looking at different forms of advertising. So whether that's radio, printed media, TV. It's really sort of looking at what's going to work for us. We're at the start of that journey now. We're doing little things now, but it's once we sort of learn what works best, we sort of double down on that and to try and push our brand out more to customers.
Right. And obviously the Regional is Detail podcast being at the center of that.
Absolutely.
So look, let's talk culture. So you've said if employees dread Monday morning, then you failed. And that's probably easy as a team of 10 people, but harder at 80. So what's changed and what's gone wrong, and how have you fixed it?
I would say in terms of the culture, it hasn't changed a lot. And I think what's gone right is we've employed the right people and the right managers to make sure that gets passed down. I think what becomes more difficult as you scale up is the complexity of the number of team members you have and trying to make sure that everything's balanced and also making sure, well, certainly from a personal level, I don't have the same level of interaction with the team as I did when we were a member, or when we only had 10, for example. When you've got 80, 90, I still see the team, but you get pulled in lots of different directions. So you don't have that level of interaction as a founder as you used to have, which is really important that you get the right people in your team that can sort of set that standard. So from my side, I've been really, really happy with the team that we've got, and everyone truly is a pleasure to work with. And I don't just say that, I know I probably will be biased, but I do wake up every day really excited to go into work, not just because of what we do with the business, but the people that you work with. And the day that ever changes will be the day that I probably don't want to work anymore. But that hasn't happened yet. I don't see it happening.
What's the number one thing you look for in employees you hire?
I think it's personality. It's so when we were at school, we were always taught about, oh, you must do well in your GCSEs, your A levels. I don't think I've ever looked at someone's A levels or GCSEs when they've come for an interview. It's about that person and who they are and what drives them, I guess. And all we're looking for is people that are caring, have a bit of a personality, a bit of a humour to them, and people that you'd want to work with. And the way that I'd sum it up is, if I would like to go with a beer with you, you'd be a great person to bring on. If I'm thinking that I absolutely wouldn't want to go for a beer with you, you're probably not quite right.
So that makes for some good team nights out then.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Back in in 2023, you committed 3 million to a new warehouse, which means you intentionally lost £1 million that year, which is a pretty big conviction for a bootstrap business. How nervous did that make you? And did you generally question whether that was the right call, or were you certain?
It was a huge move for us. It was a massive, massive investment. But I think our ambition really drove us on with this. We could have stayed in our old premises and ended up busting at the seams and having lots of separate warehouses. And we could have sort of ticked along as we were as a business. But our ambition wasn't to stop. Our ambition is to be the largest furniture retailer in the UK. And to do that, you've got to take these risks. And we thought it was the right move back then to invest and get the state-of-the-art warehouse so we could fulfill not just our needs in terms of space and but also delivery requirement. And a real key for us was remaining within Wiltshire. So we've been a Wiltshire-based business right since the start, and being able to get the site on Chippenham just off the M4 meant that we stayed in Wiltshire. So for all staff, it's still accessible and easy to get to. So it was a big risk. It was quite scary. A lot of additional overhead, a lot of money out of the business, but the operation that we've managed to set up here, I'm incredibly proud of, and very, very glad we did it, because it gives us that spring in our step for the next sort of 5 to 10 years.
Nice. That's good. And importing a lot of furniture from Asia means you're exposed to container costs, shipping delays, currency movement. And you mentioned in 2024, Middle East conflicts hitting your margins, but you still improved your margins anyway. So how does a founder-led business without hugely deep pockets have leverage in that situation?
A massive part is relationships. So it's we've since 2015 we've been going out to Asia, going out to Europe to go and see our key production partners, and maintaining a really strong relationship means when there are issues, whether that's with shipping, whether that's with raw materials, whether that's with exchange rate, we work through those together. And so they've been fantastic throughout that whole period. When tariffs came on, for example, in the US, we managed to agree sort of short-term discounts with our suppliers to help mitigate some of that. And so it's exactly the same with the shipping lines. We're working with people you trust and you have a really strong relationship with. When these problems happen, they support you and they help mitigate that downturn. So I would say the single biggest thing is our relationships and being able to leverage those.
Nice. And that kind of those relationships, that building the business, it means you're now mentioned in the same breath as Dunelm, IKEA, Habitat, like brands with really deep pockets, physical stores, massive marketing budgets. How does that comparison feel?
It feels great. I would say we probably aren't quite there yet in terms of being properly mentioned there, but those are the brands you look up to and say they've done a fantastic job to get to where they are, and they do a lot of things incredibly well. And those are the sort of brands we look at and say, actually, we think we can be better. And they do have incredibly deep pockets. They do have physical stores as well as online, but I think there's so much room for us to do things better than they do currently, and grow in a slightly more organic way. But we believe we will get there.
So you sell on both Amazon and Amazon US, and they have the logistics and the customer base and the cash to launch its own furniture private label tomorrow and really undercut the brands on price. Is that a threat you lose sleep over, and do you think they will?
It's not a threat I lose sleep over. Naturally in the market, if you've got a great product, people will copy. Whether it's a slight differentiation of your product, where they've changed the color or changed the style slightly, but it's something that naturally happens with competition. I think if we were sort of sat being scared about that happening across the board, we'd never release any new products. So I think it's something to be wary of for sure. But we've just got to make sure that we're moving at a faster pace, and we're always bringing on exciting new product and cycling through that product when we need to as well.
Yeah, makes sense. And then we talked about AI a bit, but it's changing the game in terms of shopping, room visualizations, personalized recommendation. Talking about furniture specifically, what's the biggest AI capability that's going to change the game in the next 3 years? And are you building it or are you buying it?
The biggest thing I think within furniture is going to be imagery and merchandising. So we're starting to use a bit of this now, but the ability to build a set in whatever way that you want, adjust it in whichever way you like, put your own products in, put new products that you're bringing on straight into there, and have an image produced in 5 minutes is something that's becoming a reality. That completely changes the game because it means you can onboard products quicker. It's far more cost effective. And it also means, when I talked earlier about that range building piece, if right now we don't have a matching side table or a rug to go with that, in the future, if we do have that, we can adjust an image very quickly and showcase that to a customer. So I think that's the biggest thing that you're going to see in our industry over the next sort of year or two, is that a lot of companies that previously probably had quite poor imagery, suddenly going to bring that imagery up. And it's amazing some of the video stuff that I'm seeing at the moment with AI, where they're putting live models into the product shoots, which is, yeah, it's evolving at some scale.
Very cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how that evolves and how people can, really become comfortable with things they haven't touched yet.
Yeah.
And you built your sustainability credentials carefully. So FSC certification, no plastic approach, solar powered warehouse, donating returns to charity rather than landfilling them. Like, why was that important to you before it was important to other people? And are you confident that your customers really care?
Yeah, I think for us, it's always been about doing business in the right way. And a core part of that is making sure that we look after the world that we're currently in. And for us, it's always a case of if we can do something to support, whether that's a local business or more national, we will. And so it's always just been a core objective for us to always try and be as sustainable as we can, use sustainable materials, work with, particularly within Wiltshire, like local charities that we can support, whether that's through donating returns, whether that's through working with the council to give furniture to people in need. That's been a really important thing for us, that if we've got the ability to do that, we should do it. And I think it's something that a lot of businesses should do. I think it's becoming much better within the furniture industry. It's becoming more circular, but it's still not there yet. And I think there's a huge amount that could be done. And then the second part of your question,
Yeah. And how do you verify with your customers that they care about these initiatives? How do you make them aware of them? How helpful is that for marketing?
Yeah, so to be honest, we don't really do it for a marketing purpose. It is on our website, but we don't push this to customers that much. It's not necessarily for customers. It's more for us in terms of doing business in the right way. And things like FSC will be on the packaging, but it's not the big selling point for us. I think it should be the norm that companies do this and behave in that way. So it's good for marketing in certain regards, but it's not pushed fully by ourselves because we just believe it's the normal way that we should be doing things.
Now, B2B e-commerce is often described as a decade behind B2C, and furniture e-commerce, while it is close to 40% of the market now, is still quite young. What's the assumption that the furniture industry is making right now that will look as wrong in 10 years as you can't sell furniture online next day looked in 2015?
That's a good question. Can I come back to that one? Because it kind of ties into one of the two questions you asked. It kind of ties into one of those. So
awesome. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Last question before those. So you and Monty both said that you really want to make your team killers in the craft and get people to outperform you in specific areas, and that's the real goal of leadership. So what are the areas where your team is genuinely better than you now?
Quite a lot of areas. So we've got a fantastic product team now who are a lot better than myself and Monty were in terms of going out, finding new styles, new products, bringing them in and making sure they work. So that's been brilliant because although it's a very fun part of the job, if you told me to design a full room from scratch, I'd have no idea how to do that. I'm not into focused in that sense. Another one is sort of from a finance and accounting piece. Although we're quite good with numbers, we're not accountants. So we've got a fantastic finance team that run all of that. The customer service team are even better than we tried to be when we were first starting, because they truly do care. And a number of times myself and Monty used to have to jump off a container whilst we're unloading, go and pick up a phone and then rush back. You get a much better service from that team now. So really across the board, we're building that base up. So I'd say pretty much most departments, and where I see our value is that because we understand all of it, we still have a lot of value throughout each of them, but we trust our teams to make the right calls.
Yeah, awesome. But what's your superpower, Dan? What's no one ever going to be better than you at?
Oh, I would probably say being like a die-hard Arsenal fan in the company. We haven't had one of those. Or probably the ability to try and churn out 100 different ideas and get incredibly excited about wanting to do every single one of them.
Okay. All right. Continuous enthusiasm. That's part of what it takes to be a founder, I think. So, Maria, what is your most controversial prediction for the future of retail?
So for me, I don't know if it's hugely controversial, but it's definitely controversial. I actually think AI is going to end up driving a resurgence in physical retail. So something that I can see happening, and everyone talks about, oh, after COVID, everyone has gone online, and online is going to overtake physical retail. Certainly with AI as well, there's a lot of talk about agentic search and agentic commerce more broadly, where people are just going to be buying through AI. But actually, with the point I raised earlier around imagery and video and that standard getting so much higher, and customers becoming used to a lot of images being AI, I do think there's going to be a lot of customers that want a physical experience. They want to go and touch, feel, and see a product in person. Because the more you do something online, you crave, I think, that element of seeing something that's a little bit different, whereas everything will just end up looking quite similar. So I do think there's going to be a resurgence in physical retail because it becomes much, much harder for customers to trust, I think, what they see online. Whereas if you go back 5 or 10 years, all photo shoots were done with actual products, and you could tell it was actual product because some of it was rubbish. And so I think there was a lot more trust then, whereas it's so easy to start up a company and make it look amazing, to brand your website, to have social media followings. It's become a lot more easy in this digital sphere, and so I think seeing things in person will become more important going forward, particularly in furniture.
Nice. Does that mean we'll see Furniturebox opening physical stores at some point in this journey?
Hopefully, I'd say definitely, but we'll see how the pop-ups go. But it's definitely on our plan. Yeah.
Nice. And obviously, you've been through a whirlwind journey, that unconventional journey, but an exciting one. What's your craziest story from working in retail thus far?
So I'd probably say our craziest story is this is going back to probably 2016 or 2017. Over those years, because it was still just the two of us, we would fly shows in Asia for a day and then fly back. So we didn't miss weekend orders. And we were working with a supplier who we had quality inspections done upon completion. And we had a quality inspection done and it failed. And the quality was really bad on the product, but we paid a deposit. And the supplier had apologized. We said, look, we don't want the product. We don't trust it. And they said, okay, we take the money off the container you've got on the water. We said, okay, brilliant, fine. So they sent the invoice, and then when the container shipped, so that the other container, once that shipped, they basically sent a customs document saying that we needed to pay the full price without a deposit on. And obviously, where we're bootstrapped, it was quite a significant amount of money. And we called up our shippers and said, look, they can't do this. So we've got email threads, we've got everything. But our supplier said, well, if they don't release the telex, you'll just end up paying a huge amount of money at port. There's nothing you can do. So we had to pay the full amount, and we said, okay, we're not just going to let this slide. But it was quite difficult because our supplier was in Asia, so you couldn't really take them to a UK court. So instead, what we did is we flew out to the show, and we'd printed off lots of failed inspection reports. And you can imagine their horror at the start of the show when we go and sit on their stand, and any Western potential buyers coming to the stand, we say, don't bother, the quality's really bad. And the owner ended up coming up to us with a metal pole threatening us, but then agreed to give the deposit back to us. So yeah, we ended up getting it back in the end, but there was a point where I thought, oh God, this is going to go really horribly wrong. But it's probably the craziest story I could think of.
Oh, amazing. Well, that's true guerrilla marketing, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, wouldn't want to do it again, but I couldn't let it slide. So
All right. Don't cross Furniturebox or Dan Beckles. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
that's okay. Thank you very much, Jamie.
And that's it for today's episode of the Retail is Detail podcast. This episode was brought to you by Loxa, the Klarna for insurance, helping protect every retail customer everywhere. We help retailers offer product protection seamlessly on all major platforms, online and in store, across all insurable categories. Visit loxacover.com to find out more. You can catch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, or at retailisdetailpodcast.com. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram to get insights from the podcast every day. I've been your host, Jamie Hamer. Thank you for listening, and see you next week.